All right, let's get started.
Is Keith here?
I'm here. This is just a quick PSA. We're doing a sort of new contributor workshop for KRT next week, next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. It's on the Istio working group calendar, and I've put a link to the calendar in the agenda. So if you want to contribute to Istio or curious about how some of our newest controllers work, feel free to join and bring your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. Alrighty, metrics compression. Somebody have good context on this? Nobody? In the last meeting,
Someone else up and move that to the end, see if they show up.
yeah, okay. I don't know if he's on Slack or not. Maybe somebody wants to ping him. Okay, the next one is native histograms as well. In person.
I think maybe we missed mine.
Yeah, no, the other one, I just removed the other one from in front of it. Oh, sorry, yeah, there.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update on beta support for Gateway API inference extension. In the past couple of weeks, I submitted a V1 conformance report for Istio for inference extension, and I also merged some documentation for Istio.io. And as far as I'm aware, there's no other dependencies for beta promotion of our inference extension support, but I just kind of wanted to see if anyone else had anything that we think we need and if this could possibly be included in 1.29.
So the only material change was the change in the default state of the flag, right?
So I created a PR for that. I'm not sure if most of us consider that to be a requirement to make enabling the inference extension the default there. John Howard had left a comment on that PR saying that that's not necessary, or maybe we shouldn't enable it before actually promoting it to beta. So I have no strong opinion there, but I was initially under the impression that that was a dependency, but if not, then...
No, it's generally not required.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so in that case, unless there's some other anything else we need there to promote it, then if there's anything that I could do on my end to push that through, just let me know, please.
Seeing as it was topical in the context of beta promotion. I don't think there's any telemetry impact that is material, right?
I don't believe so. I haven't heard anything on that note.
Okay, then
Yeah.
I'm fine with promotion. Any other
Okay.
TC members?
Is there any action required on my end to see that through, or?
Contributing to the release notes,
Okay. Got it.
making sure the flag is documented,
Yes.
and if just the documentation for the state of the flag.
Okay.
Are Keith and Leor on board with the promotion as well? 'Cause I know they've been leading the feature, so I want to mention that.
Yeah, I believe
That it's
Keith
horribly
is.
broken and not good to go, right?
Right. I believe Keith is. I have not spoken to Leor about it, but I could reach out to him directly. That would be
Okay. I mean,
cool.
I don't expect any issues, but it would just seems right to have the kind of core feature leader give it the thumbs up as well.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you.
Yeah, we can follow up. Last time I talked to Leor, we went through, like, he created issues and all the issues got done. The only open question was around waypoint support. He thought that might need to be potentially a gate for beta, but after discussing at KubeCon in Atlanta, we sort of said that there's more work that probably needs to be done upstream to get waypoint support because there's no front end IP. Users could hack around it with service entry potentially, but we didn't see it as a blocker for beta at that point. But we can follow up just to confirm with him.
Okay, I had no objections from TFC. Get Leor to sign off. I think we're good.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Is Crowman here? All right, we'll come back to that. Mike, the ping on.
Yeah, I can
Update.
cover that. It's just a ping. I had a proposal a while back. We discussed it a bit briefly in the working group. This is just a PR suggesting some WDS change. I would like to get some feedback on it. I think I described the problem in the PR, so should be enough to provide some background. But yeah, please take a look. And the next item is also mine. Just a question. I was playing with pure metadata discovery, trying to disable it and just run on the baggage-based pure metadata discovery. And I found out that we cannot really do that in waypoints. There is in Bootstrap code some logic that explicitly looks at the if the pure metadata discovery disabled and enables it back in some cases. And I was thinking that now when we have like sort of alternative pure metadata discovery mechanisms, would it make sense to allow disabling it in waypoints?
What's the motivation to disable it? Is it you
Well,
put a note here?
Yeah, so there's some subset of users that just outright disable telemetry and we only use it for telemetry. And not disabling it is not harmful, but it's uses memory that is not needed there. It just basically copies WDS in Envoy memory in waypoint. And if you disabled metrics, you don't really need to pay that cost.
I added a comment in the agenda doc. I was talking with someone on Slack, and I think it was a couple of months ago, so it might not be preserved. But they were having sidecar ooms because of WDS changes, and they weren't even using ambient. And so this is going to be relevant thinking about the migration or the interop case. Mikhail calls out here that there is a copy of the WDS data per worker thread. because we store it in thread local storage. So it can add up for sidecars that have a lot of cores. It can really add up memory wise. It's not free.
Do we have any like rough idea of footprint?
It will really depend on the size of the cluster, yeah. But I can like get some numbers and see what it would look like as a dependency of the number of nodes.
Pods, right? Presumably.
Yeah, number of pods. Sorry, yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess the real question, right? So, the sidecar use case or lack thereof, right? Like, what are the practical implications of? Let's leave aside turning telemetry off as a memory optimization.
Let me clarify a little bit, right? You can disable it in sidecars already, and that's what the person that Kit mentioned did, right? But what I'm kind of trying to highlight is that you can disable it everywhere except waypoints, because there is explicitly hard-coded logic there that says like, oh, well, if it's waypoint, I'm going to ignore the fact that you want to disable it and will enable it regardless, right? And before, it may have had like sense to like force it because you need it for telemetry, right? And otherwise telemetry doesn't work, even though I could argue that there's a subset of users who like don't really care about telemetry. It's like not all users, but there are some definitely. But now we have alternative means of peer metadata discovery. So if somebody is happy with like baggage-based metadata discovery, like there's no real reason for them to pay the cost, right? And I just want to allow them an option to disable it, right? Not that I want to disable it by default or anything, but if they want to do it, I want them to have an option to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to get to the, do we have a recommendation now between those two things?
No, like by default, we still do want to recommend using the XDS-based metadata discovery because it's a mechanism that existed for a long time, while the baggage-based one is a new one.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting we change today or even within a release. I'm thinking more long-term, like directionally. When do we think we would get to the point where we may change the recommendation, or would we always stick with what we have, which is to prefer metadata discovery over baggage?
I think it's a little bit early to say that we will change the recommendation at the moment because, well, frankly, we didn't get any feedback on the baggage metadata discovery. We know that they're not exactly equivalent, right? I think it might be a little bit too early to like set a direction that we always want to have baggage.
Okay, so let's assume we never get feedback. How would we decide? Right, we would test something. What would that test look like?
I think if we never get feedback, the safest choice is to not really change the default. Right, that would be my idea.
Yeah, that's certainly the safest. But let's say we wanted to do a critical evaluation of it. Right, we would run some kind of performance benchmark.
Oh, you mean? I see. I would need to think
that's the material question, right? Like, and it's not something we have to line up today. Like, obviously, we can break telemetry by letting people force something off, right? And just that's not a feature that's ever going to go beyond alpha, right? We're just going to say use at your own risk, and if you do it, good luck, right? We make no guarantees to you about what that's going to do.
Well, yes, but with a caveat. We do want the baggage metadata discovery to be production ready at some point. We just didn't have a plan to delete XDS-based metadata discovery mechanism
Right.
But-
Yeah. Like I'm not saying we should do a bad job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, right. Currently, the beta state is both things are on, right? Or both things can be turned on, and the system will work.
Yes.
If that we want that to change, or if somebody wants to turn one of those off, right? Today you can turn the baggage off, and you get the previous state, which was GA, in fact, right?
When they're both enabled, we use XDS-based metadata discovery
Right.
as a reference and fall back to the baggage. If
Right.
it's
So that's a beta state because baggage is a beta feature.
yes.
If baggage is turned off and then a data discovery is on, it's a GA state, right? And realistically, the other state is too. If metadata is turned off and baggage is on, that's a beta state.
Yes.
Well, it's not a beta state because it hasn't actually been tested.
Oh, yeah, it's not, we don't declare it production ready. Like, we know that
Right.
it works, but we didn't get any feedback, and like, yeah.
Yeah, so if we wanted to allow that to be a beta or above state, we would have to have testing of it.
Yes.
So then the question is, what would that testing be? If somebody wants to turn that on, right, or to have both off, right, that is considered not a beta state, right? So that's usually that's alpha state.
I think the alpha state is when we rely on baggage, right?
No. I'm saying if you turn both off.
Yeah, that's where I'm a little bit confused. I don't understand why we treat it as a alpha state. You mean that just because we don't have specific tests for this particular configuration?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Right. So you want to turn off, like you're saying you want to turn off istiometrics to save memory footprint in the waypoint, right?
Yeah.
You do that, you're not in the beta state anymore, right? It's use at your own risk.
I see. I now understand what you mean. So basically, if we want to allow that to disable the XDS-based metadata discovery in waypoints, what we need to is to declare it as a supported scenario, add some tests that do all
or not. No, we don't have to progress the feature state, right? We can say it's alpha. That's okay.
Okay, we can document that it's a caveat, but ideally, if we want to say that, yeah, you can do that and don't worry about it, it's supported, we would make it a feature and progress it through this thing.
Yeah, if enough users said they needed it, right?
Yeah, okay.
There's a couple of users and they're happy and they test it themselves, right? They just got to know, right? They can get broken through an upgrade, right? With that flag in that state. If they're okay carrying that burden, then it can stay in alpha state for as long as that's fine.
Okay.
We just need to tell them, right?
So documentation is a blocker for making that happen, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Kit?
Yeah, I guess going back to the substantive question, not trying to solve it today, but I want to make sure I got the right frame of reference. Is it really, when I'm thinking about XCS metadata discovery versus baggage, is it really a trade-off between bandwidth and memory? Right, because on the wire, baggage is going to take up space of what you send in the header. There's a cost to that. And then the WDS that we send to the Envoy proxies, there's a cost to that. Is that the right lens to think about the decision? And if so, does that help us make recommendations, at least to users who need to decide which one to use?
I think it's slightly simplified version of it. There are subtle differences between XDS metadata discovery and baggage as well. They don't always return a result in all the same cases. When they both return the result should be the same, but there are cases where XDS metadata discovery will know something and baggage metadata discovery will not.
That's a good point. That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
If the connection fails, baggage will get nothing, because there's nothing sent over in response headers. But XGS discovery will be able to know what the destination is, assuming that we're
In
not
some-
in a multi-cluster scenario. Yeah, in some cases. Okay, that helps.
And there is the opposite of it as well. There are cases where baggage metadata discovery will tell you something, when XDS metadata discovery will not. Right? So there's subtle differences between those two. Besides like the bandwidth versus memory trade-off.
But that still is probably the primary one.
I think if like somebody will look at it and decide to make a decision, that would probably the thing they will look at first. But it's hard to tell if like those subtle differences are going to be a problem for somebody. Like if we are documenting the trade-offs between those, I will document both. The memory versus bandwidth trade-off, and also some cases where one of those will do the discovery and another will not. Right, but yeah, I think the memory versus bandwidth is the primary one.
So the primary one is failure of the MTLS handshake.
When the baggage metadata discovery cannot doesn't find the peer details, yes, probably metadata handshake or outright connection failure. That's another
like MTLS handshake failure is probably the primary connection failure modality, right? So client-side Z-tunnel has incorrect certificate or invalid certificate, right? Let's say this is a rotation problem. The handshake will fail.
I don't know about that, right? In the sense that, like, I can imagine this scenario happening, like, but it's easier for me to imagine a case where the tunnel actually and like Istio works correctly, more or less, and the certificates are correct, but like I don't know, the pod is unavailable, or something like that. I think that seems more likely to me, but it's hard to tell without like looking at specific.
If a connection is being established, right, we already have two parties.
No, if connection fails to establish, right? If the actual TCP connection fails.
Right. So like what are the typical reasons that would occur and that we would be visible to us in, let's say, a waypoint or in Z-tunnel?
If the destination is not listening on the port, like because it's just, I don't know, restart.
Right, but then Z-tunnel can't do anything, right? So it can't log any information, and so the metadata isn't useful.
The destination right. Z-tunnel cannot, but source Z-tunnel can.
Right.
Well,
So
Z-tunnel is always going to have WDS, right? So it already has metadata discovery based on WDS.
But
it's intrinsic.
Similar with Waypoint, right? If you do XDS based metadata discovery, you know which endpoint you pick. It doesn't matter if you've successfully connected to it, right? It still may not listen, right? But Waypoint will know the IP address of that endpoint.
Okay, so it's the upstream case is the most likely one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that strongly argues in favor of keeping WDS as the kind of default mechanism, and baggage is the fallback.
Yes, and that's the current state. The question is, do we want to allow other configuration like options?
Okay, so I think for the moment we know what we need to do, which is okay to fix the flag. That state must be explicitly documented.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and given that constraint, we're unlikely to progress that state of the system to beta, not without a major change.
What state?
So disabling WDS, right, in the waypoint, given the fact that it enables us to correctly log telemetry for upstream connection failures, right? It's a very necessary part of the system, and we are therefore very unlikely to test or seriously consider that state to be something we consider production ready, or a generally recommended or default state of the system, right?
I think we would not recommend it to be like by default disabled, but I think there is a subset of customers, like a power users.
Yeah, no,
whom
they're allowed to do it. They're just
Yeah.
allowed to do it within the caveat of it being always alpha.
Okay, if that's the way we want to communicate that, then yes, it's fine.
To be clear, Louis, are you saying like you're saying that turning off WDS discovery is an alpha state? Are you
In waypoint.
are you saying that promoting baggage is permanently alpha
No,
because
no,
of
no,
that?
no, no. Baggage can promote. It's the combination state, right? So WDS being off in a waypoint is always alpha. WDS being on and baggage being on can be beta or GA. WDS being on is GA.
Okay, and WDS being off and baggage being on is
Also probably alpha.
I see how you get there. I think that might be we have to be careful about how we surface this documentation wise, because if baggage can progress but having WD, yeah, it's a weird dependency situation. We have to take some care in how we document it. But I think I agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't want to explode the testing matrix, right? So unless we get like, if somebody comes back and gives us a very good reason to reconsider this just being always alpha, we can look at it again. But until someone does, right, it just seems like the testing burden is not worth it.
I definitely get the argument that like we probably don't want to test all the possible configuration surfaces, right? Especially if they don't have much of a demand. But is it okay for us to like, besides alpha, beta, or other state, make some additional commitments? Like, for example, it's true that XDS metadata discovery works better in some cases than baggage, but in some cases it works worse than baggage. Like the examples where baggage will return something when XDS based will not, like particularly multi-network, multi-cluster scenarios. And that's why like the baggage based metadata discovery was introduced, right?
Yeah, no, the combination of the two can progress to GA.
Okay. So like in this multi-network, multi-cluster, the suggestion is we will say that XDS plus baggage are okay. It works for multi-network, multi-cluster. If you want to disable it, in principle, it's okay, but we are not testing it explicitly. So please do it at your own risk. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I understand. Right. Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay, hopefully that captured it. Brendan here.
Hey, Louis. Yeah, so I had brought this topic up, a requirement for us to do interface level exclusion a couple working group sessions ago. And I'm a first time contributor. From the discussion, the sentiment in the meeting seemed to be positive towards bringing in interface exclusion for our requirement. And there were some suggestions given during the session around the implementation. So I put this work in progress PR together, just trying to see if there's anything I can do to move it forward, or how, if I'm doing things the right way, so to speak. I pinged in the Slack channel to see if there's anyone to take a look, and no luck there. So the PR is kind of large, so I'm wondering if I need to put together a documentation, like a formal request for the feature, or if there's just anything in particular about the approach that is like a non-starter.
Well, maybe, let's see, how are we doing for time? I think we're good for time. So maybe you just want to give an outline of, like, a little bit of outline of the requirement and why it's important, and then just a rough outline of the solution, and then maybe we can find you a reviewer.
Okay. Can you click on the PR, or do
yes,
you want me to share?
I'm in the wrong way of sharing. Hold on. I'm gonna have to dial out and rejoin again. Hold on 1 second.
I can share if that's easier.
If you can share, yeah.
Okay. So for our requirement specifically, we have a multi-NIC pod. One interface, ETH0, is like the in-cluster interface that participates in like the Kubernetes cluster traffic. The other is like this ETH1 interface that comes directly from the customer subnet. And it's injected directly into the pod's network namespace. And there's a use case specifically where some features that we're trying to provide break. But in general, the goal is to reintroduce a way for us to not have some interface traffic rerouted to Z-tunnel, which was provided in sidecar mode, because that shouldn't necessarily participate in the mesh because it's coming from maybe a different network, but it's not like the typical gateway model or other ways where solutions for qualifying in mesh versus out of mesh traffic is a little bit more straightforward. The suggestions that were provided in the working group were kind of to go along the same lines as the enablement selector. So within the CNI ambient block, there's like a way to provide exclusion interfaces, and then like a selector for a namespace in the interface to exclude. So it's not directly attached to the pod in any way. It's more on the Istio CNI, so admins are free to configure it, and it's not something that can be easily exploited or added out of band or anything like that. So that was an aspect of the security model that was advocated for and I agreed with. So the approach is kind of straightforward. Like after adding this, it's kind of just plumbing through the namespace and sort of mimicking the enablement selector logic to accommodate for that interface exclusion, and then re-adding IP table rules to sort of follow that model. And I guess the changes are a lot because plumbing through, I haven't added UT unit tests yet. So one of my concerns was like if the changes are like a size L, do I need to do like a more formal route where I do a requirement with a doc and everything associated with this, or if these are okay? But I guess, does the requirement make sense, and does the approach sort of align with what's expected?
I don't see any specific problem with the approach. Just on the requirement side, so this is NFS.
Yeah, so in part we have we provide customers with NFS v3, and with that there's this legacy way of sort of validating traffic where the client will send a mount request on a privileged port as like a pseudo or an authenticated user, and then when our storage component receives that request, it validates that the request came from a privileged port range, to sort of determine like if the user had mount capabilities. It's just a way, I guess, that this was implemented. And so when the request comes inbound and it's redirected to zTunnel, zTunnel establishes upstream application connection from the like 32 to 64K range instead of maintaining this privileged port range, and so the request is rejected. But in general, we have other use cases that we're wanting to accommodate in the future that don't play too well with having this interface with inbound traffic get redirected, given it's not really in the mesh, it's just within the pods network namespace, but it's coming from a different network. But I'm also open to suggestions, about how we can.
Yeah, no, it's a curious, obviously it's a slightly curious network approach, but
Yeah.
I get why there's a limitation. It's also fairly esoteric, so it's not clear that we would want to support that in zTunnel, right, to maintain privileged source ports. Right, it's the source port you're referring to, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's not that this.
Yeah.
It's the source, so it's kind of a weird legacy implementation, but we still want to provide this feature and protocol to customers. A lot of them still use it, so.
So I have a quick question. If I'm reading correctly, I know last time I didn't think we come to the conclusion if I'm reading the PR correctly. So basically, we're enable this exclusion from a user perspective only at the namespace level, that you can't do it at the pod level, if I understand correctly, which, by the way, I do like that approach. So essentially, as an admin, I can specify these are the labels I want my namespace admin to use, and to opt out this exclude interface. Now, if I'm a pod deployer, that I can only deploy pods into the namespace, but I don't have control into the namespace, I cannot opt out this particular interface. Am I reading it correctly?
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And I captured some of the notes from the last time I brought this up. So specifically honoring that namespace clause was brought up as a good approach. And yeah, you're reading the PR correctly.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, because I know we didn't conclude that, because I think Keith, he dropped it. He was more argue at why are we not doing it at the same thing as the label injection, like the ambient label, which we supported at pod level and also namespace level. But I think this is special because we don't want the admin to be surprised where people just opt out a network interface randomly. So I think this is a good starting point.
Yep. We don't have a requirement also to do any sort of pod level. Namespace level is fine for us. So I think one thing that was brought up was if there's a requirement for pod level, maybe it can be extended there, but this is a good start, like you mentioned.
Okay, cool.
Go back to the sample configuration that you showed in the PR. So just Lynn, on your and Keith's point, seeing as that namespace is a reserved label name already, the admin already has a way to restrict to namespace using a pod label selector.
Wait, you said pod namespace select. I'm confused.
So,
You restricted on the
Right.
namespace selector, right?
right, no, but like I can, as an admin, say, like, if this was pod selector instead of namespace selector, I could do match labels and then the Kubernetes namespace names reserved label to get a namespace specific effect on the pod.
Yeah, you can explicitly specify namespace name and use that as a pod selector, and it will select
Right.
pods from within that namespace. What you can't do is specify namespace labels and use that as a pod selector. I
Right.
think that's the delta there.
Yeah, so I guess that's the question, and really boils down to a tenancy argument whether people are using namespace labels, right, to do tenant subdivision. I'm fine with either as long as we're clear about which use case we think is more useful. Right, Brendan, is this a capability admins want to enable for namespaces that then pods may or may not use? Or are the admins going to select pods?
Yeah, I guess the intention was the former, where namespaces.
Okay,
be
I mean, we can always
selected.
add a pod selector later to do an intersection, so that's fine. Okay, I'm fine with this. Does anybody want to be a volunteer reviewer for Brendan?
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Mitch. I will
Thanks, Mitch.
Yes.
sign you up.
I guess, Mitch, you implemented the enablement selector, right? I think I saw your name all over that. Or
I did do some work there, yeah.
okay, so yeah, makes sense.
Assuming that Chroman is still not here, we have two. Okay, a heads up. Gateway API 1.5 release branch, maybe out this week. We don't plan to make any specific code changes to support that, right? Seeing as we're already in the middle of a release build, but we may pass conformance. Is that the general point?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring as a Gateway API maintainer, we are cutting the branch. I know that John is already aware of some of those things. Istio is passing almost all of the conformance tests, but we may be doing some other changes during the, if we find some bugs or something like that between RC and the real release.
Does anybody have a sense about, well, one, do we care about passing conformance if we require code changes or patches at this point? Or are we okay kicking that to the next release? I think we're probably okay.
I think this is already for the next one, not for 1.29,
Yeah, okay.
right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. A question about elastic weighted moving average.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Abir. First time in this meeting. So I just wanted to say that we're very pleased with this algorithm being introduced to Istio. Before Istio had this algorithm, we implemented our own kind of controller, which utilized the Istio capabilities and improved the load balancing for our services. But right now we are evaluating the moving average algorithm, which seems to compete with our algorithm nicely. But I was wondering when it will become available without the need to configure envoy filters. What is the plans with it? So I'm wondering if I should go with the envoy filter to production or like wait for more verbose support from your side, basically.
I think we would in general like to have it be an available feature in the API. Maybe you could speak a bit about why, like what kind of benefit you saw with it. Like how much did it help you guys?
Yeah, right. So basically, we're running in a very high scale with many different instance types for the same service. And with the least request algorithm or the round robin algorithm, there was a large CPU diff between the different nodes and pods. And basically all the latencies between the different type of nodes. So we wanted an algorithm that know how to split the traffic better, like load balancing better. And the EWMA algorithm suits our needs because it spread the traffic based on latency and it improves the situation. Our current algorithm is actually looking directly on a CPU and spreading the load based on CPU usage for each pod, which does eventually the same results with a different approach. Yeah, this is why we need it, basically.
Have you guys, oh, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. When you configure this, do you need to pass it any other configuration, or do you just like set like I want this load balancing on?
What do you mean, with our custom algorithm or with the EWMA algorithm?
Either.
So our custom algorithm is like an operator we developed that is utilizing Istio service entry object. It's doing like a very weird manipulation for it's like using Istio but with very custom logic that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And the new algorithm was only like upgrading to the latest Istio and creating the right envoy filter with this algorithm selected. And like I had an experiment running both on our load environment and compared them, and I can maybe share the results here. But they reach kind of similar behavior, which is good for us because we don't want to keep maintaining our own controller, basically, in the long run.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if it's just like adding a new field and that's it, that seems pretty easy. And if it makes a big difference, then I think I'd be pretty open to it.
Yeah, I guess that many people will use this new algorithm because I guess we are not only one facing the load balancing issue before.
Yeah, I think, so one, thank you for sharing that. It's useful to know that you guys had this kind of workaround style solution and then compared it. So it's almost like you have a case study. I think it would be very useful if you could share that information.
Yeah.
That is the result we would expect by adopting this, but it's nice to have somebody confirm it. You know, we might actually ask you to do a blog post about it, for instance. But I think it's kind of useful for the community to see real world evaluations of things like that. So if you're up for it, we could try and put that together. Yeah, as far as the feature goes, I mean, that's a pretty obvious proof point. And that's obviously eliminating very significant complexity for you guys, right? That operator does not sound trivial.
Exactly.
I guess the only other question is, do you feel like taking a stab at the implementation yourself? If not, right, that's totally fine. You've already shared a lot here. So we could try and see if somebody's willing to do that work or take it on instead. But it's always good to ask.
Yeah. I never like contributed to Istio before, so getting into the project will take some time for me. But I'm open to help in like showing live examples on how it behaves in production for us versus other protocols. And if anything else I can do, just let me know.
Yeah, well, so whatever you have, you can share about the performance evaluations that you can do. I think we're already using least request as the default. John, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Yes, this
Uh,
is the default. To be honest, I didn't compare it with the list request when I compared it to our own load balancer, but I can do this comparison as well. And
yeah, if
see.
you could do a comparison between the three, so your bespoke least request and least and EWMA, that would be very instructive.
Yeah, there is key metrics you want me to compare, because like I can look on latency, on whatever like you think is the
So latency and CPU standard deviation.
exactly what I was looking on currently.
Yeah.
So our algorithm is basically was balancing the CPU. So in standard deviation CPU, it was better. But for latency, it was pretty much the same. But I'm not sure that load balancing based on CPU is really a good approach for a network.
No. I mean, you're right. Like percentage of like CPU load is not necessarily a good indicator of performance.
Yeah, that's right.
But like that's a great point to make in a blog post to explain people why, even if you level CPU, you don't get leveling of latency. So I guess yeah, latency percentile distribution.
Okay. Yeah, I can share that.
Yeah, and but having a comparison with the default state in Istio would be useful, John, because if EWMA is a better default, then it would be useful to know that, right, in the long run, than least request. In typical scenarios, EWMA and least request should approximate each other, assuming equal capacity in the backend.
Yeah, if you want, I can quickly share an image of some Grafana graph, if it will make sense to you.
Given that we're tight for just about over time, could you put them into the Slack thread? Well, maybe start a thread in Slack in the ambient channel and add those images there.
Yeah,
that would be very helpful.
Great, no problem.
I'm going to carry through Croman's 2 items to the next meeting, I guess. We're out of time. He's here. Okay, thanks so much, and particularly thank you, Abir. That was really useful information. Thank you for putting the time and effort in. And welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, Juice.
Minute. Oh, sorry, James. Hey Ryan, how's it going? Sorry, I'll get my headphones working here.
No problem at all.
So yeah, Matt gave me that headset yesterday. So
No. If they were talking off the ledge, I think one of the things that like just like I personally don't necessarily want to complain or like vocalize I'm upset about something, which I think like lets me think that maybe like I didn't have a forum to back out. Well, and it was just good for me to hear, just even just the text for last night, hear like hear about a long, it's going to be a long slog on some of these accounts, but everyone sounds committed to get this shit done. It's just a lot of work. You guys, how are you doing it?
yeah, totally. Like I don't know if you remember, but like I pinged you a few weeks back with like, hey, what's up with BlackRock? Because I'm waiting to be called in. I'm like the cavalry sitting around here going, just point and shoot me, Ryan. It's like my job at this point.
I got time with Brett. So we're gonna get engaged again. Biggest problem with BlackRock is they're they get up until Q1 is just not no work. Like all their leadership does like from all the offices. They pat each other on the back for that, come mid-February. So we should get some updates. Like look at more market. So that said, I think like council stuff. I think Brett had the offsite about 15. Like there's big projects that have kind of like a lot of the stuff down the road. For any reason, it's having stuff now. Like you should absolutely get something to discuss it. So from like the gifting perspective, like migrating them, that stuff is fair. I want to figure out how to navigate like you don't have to just spend a year helping migrate. Like I'll get that done relatively soon. Why would you try to deliver value? That'll be part where having like yourself as that like actually this rather than the sales guy.
Yeah, I mean the other thing I was chatting with Matt about this last night, right? So obviously, like we have this deal with PayPal, and our champion at PayPal, Mark, you saw the right, you heard him speak at the offsite, right? He's incredibly like supportive and appreciative of what we've done, and very, very personable. And Mark has agreed to do some champion goals. Right.
Or if you were going to do this, you're not going to waste time and money and be that much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like that's like insanity. Like at a high level, right, like writing some network orchestration stuff, right, to help them automate it, fine. Doing their own SDN, like that's insanity. Like genuine